Hey, am I already live on YouTube? I thought I was going to be still having to hit a button. But it looks like I may be live on YouTube, and if so, then I'm sorry I just sat there mouth breathing while you're listening. Hopefully you're just getting a, a countdown screen, but it sure looks like I might actually be live over there. Then again, I don't know. So, anyways, if you're there and if you're in YouTube and you can hear me, just give me a shot. I'm going to go live here actually in both TikTok and YouTube in about 3 minutes. That's the warm-up period. But again, there's some kind of early indication that I'm already streaming, although I thought I had to hit... I guess I already am. Guess I'm already live on YouTube. Well, shit. Then I might as well fire up TikTok if I'm already live over there. Oops, I got to change the title on the TikTok side. Give me a moment here. Okay, yeah, that could have been extremely embarrassing. That could have been extremely embarrassing. I didn't even... Usually when I hit the start, I have to also hit a go live button, and I'm like, oh my god, like it says I'm live already. That could have been really... Hopefully it wasn't embarrassing. I think I was just maybe doing a little heavy breathing. Anyways, open Q&A. I'm just typing in some stuff on TikTok to get TikTok fired up on my two cases. Okay, got that going. So let's get that started over there. Oh, thanks. Well, you took a risk there, Rhonda.
I did?
Yeah, I'm on live cameras.
I know.
Oh, okay. I was just silent, no worries. Okay, excellent. Okay, good. Okay, we got TikTok, I think, fired up. Obviously, my sound, I'm glad that I was safe on the YouTube side. All right, so for those who are unaware of my format, what I normally do is I usually come on about 10 minutes early, and I kind of wait for the room to kind of get filled up for those people who are, just getting notified that I'm on live, and then I start officially doing some kind of monologue, talking about what I'm going to talk about for today's hour or so. I usually go for about an hour. And so we're just kind of in that warm-up period. Good time for you to hit the restroom, grab a drink, anything you need to do if you want to settle in and watch a live and see what it's about. If you've been here before, then you probably already know the routine. Hopefully my light situation is good. Let me see. Should I kill the light a little bit? That looks a little better. Yeah, that probably looks a little softer. It's weird that on the TikTok side, the camera... it looks a lot different than on the YouTube side. It's got a better crystal clear image on the YouTube side, it seems like. So, anyways, hopefully everybody's staying for a little while and hanging out. Going over to YouTube, thank you so much for... Yeah, YouTube's probably going to be the better experience. I'm a long-form content creator. TikTok is kind of... I put clips from my long-form videos onto YouTube or to TikTok, and it's easier to get a quick audience on TikTok, but really I'm kind of a long-form guy, and there's a lot more things I can say on YouTube than I can on TikTok. So my strategy has been to simultaneously broadcast on both. They get out of sync, so if you are watching both, I recommend you mute the audio on the TikTok side and just listen to the YouTube, because there's quite a delay and it'll be very confusing. Welcome to those. The Luigi Revolution on TikTok. I had a problem getting you. Not anymore. Hold on. All right, Luigi Revolution, I've made you a moderator on the TikTok side. Thank you. I'm glad that I caught you. That could have been embarrassing what I just did. Hold on. All right. So anyways, what was I saying? I can't remember what the hell I was saying. I was just... It's funny. I was watching the delay where I popped up a screen on my other screen that I'm broadcasting to YouTube. And I'm like, man, I never know. I've got what I should be doing, and I need to make sure I make a note of this before I go live. I need to close out all of my other windows and browsers and stuff, because one of these days I'm going to share a screen I didn't intend to share, and then we're all going to need therapy. So yeah, let's just hope I don't make that mistake. And on today's live, and I don't click on the wrong button. I don't really plan on showing much over here on the web screen. So I don't even know. I mean, I could go full screen on YouTube. I really don't know that I need to have the picture-in-picture thing going on. But hey. All right, what do we got? We have about 8 minutes before we officially get started. Like I said, this is a great time if you would like to grab a soda or your favorite beverage of choice, grab a sandwich, depending on your time zone, and chill out for a little bit, because we will get started officially in about 8 minutes. But of course, I don't want to just sit there and be 100% silent, because back when I was going to broadcasting school, the cardinal rule is never have dead air. Never have dead air, because if somebody's scanning the stations and you're just dead air, they'll just keep moving on and they'll miss you. So if you're not playing music, you should be talking. And so I was trained in radio for a short period of time, and for some reason, even though it was a very, very, very short period of time, it stuck with me about dead air. So I tend to talk nonstop. Oh, you know, the gift goal thing, I don't have it turned on in TikTok. Thanks for asking. It's so hard because I hate begging for gifts. I hear all the time people tell me that I should be asking for gifts, and I don't. And so I've had people tell me that I get some of the lowest gifts they've ever seen. But I hate being the idea of being a content creator where I'm like, come on guys, give me money, go, give me money, go. I hate that shit. Hate it. So I don't want to beg for money. I would love gifts. Don't get me wrong. I would love gifts. I'm trying to do this for a living. So yeah, I'm not going to lie and say that gifts aren't fantastic, but I also don't want to beg for it. So my compromise was turning on a gift goal and just be like, I'm not going to talk about the gifts. If they see a gift goal, I may turn that back on, but I've been failing to meet my gift goal for so long, and it's horribly low as it is. It kind of was almost defeating. It's like, if I can't even make a low gift goal, why even have it on the screen? So that's what that's about. Got about 6 minutes and we'll officially get started. By the way, if you are new here, drop me a note, let me know. If you caught last night's live, let me know. If you saw this morning's video or the morning before's video, let me know. A lot has happened in my world in 24 hours. And yesterday's video was insane. And the amount of, it looks like a gift over here. No! Holy shit! That was amazing. I think that was amazing. I don't know the values, but I'm like, holy shit. That sounds amazing. Oh my God. I don't even know what that means entirely, so forgive me, but apparently I'm gonna maybe need to send you a gift card or a Christmas card or something. Fucking, I don't know. But it sounded amazing. So what I was going to say is, if you saw my channel, I have had an enormous 24 hours. I got my ass kicked. Emotionally. I took a lot of beating yesterday, and then I realized, if you're going to put yourself out there in public, you better put on some big boy pants, because you're going to have people beat you up. I got my emotions stomped on a lot yesterday, and it was a rough day until I reminded myself, well, this is what you asked for. You're putting yourself out in the public, and you're not going to make you're not going to make everybody happy all the time. And so yeah, it's tough being under pressure and being insulted a lot, and it's on a personal level. And then I started making the mistake of responding a little bit, and then I started getting more and more angry, and then I'm realizing, well, this person who left this shitty comment, while it's the 50th shitty comment I've gotten today, it's the first one they've offered. So am I going to give them the full force of my frustration when they're really only repeating something I've heard 50 times, and really they're getting the brunt of my whatever. It's hard. As a people pleaser, as I am, I want to make you happy. I want to do things that you want to hear. I want to say things, but Don't get me wrong. I don't believe in clickbaiting. I'm not saying things so that I can get clicks, so that I can get, all that stuff like that. That's not my thing. So while I want to provide the kind of content that you want to hear, I'm not doing things for clicks. I'm not doing things for gifts, despite the fact that it looks like I got an amazing gift. And if that's the case, Amadeus, I don't even know. Like I said, I don't know values. I don't want to look it up right now, but it seems like that was a fucking amazing one. And if that's the case, I'm going to come give you a big hug. I'll find out where you live. No, I won't. I won't track you down, but I would thank you anyways. All right, so where are we at? 3 minutes. 3 minutes until we go. Hey, Diana. I'm simultaneously casting, by the way, let me remind this before we get officially started. I'm simultaneously broadcasting on TikTok and YouTube. There's always a very big delay on the YouTube side. My channel on YouTube just recently, in the last 30 hours or so, got monetized, and so commercials could potentially pop up. I hope that doesn't annoy the hell out of you. If it does, it's even going to put you even further off a little bit on the TikTok stream. So hopefully you don't care about being live in sync with TikTok, because that's impossible. If you're on the YouTube side, you are not in sync with TikTok. There's always going to be a delay, and if you get served some kind of commercial, even if you hit skip right away, you're going to get a little further off. So just pick one. For my benefit, of course, I'd love it if you stream both and mute one, because then I get watch time on both sides. But that's a selfish ask, but that's the way I would love it. So again, we got about 2 minutes, and then I'll officially get started. I'll recap what's happened last night. I had a live last night. I'll talk about that. I've had a couple of videos, I don't know if I would say go viral, but comparatively to my content, my account has exploded in the last 24 to 36 hours. So it's an adjustment period for me. I've gone from stage one of YouTube to stage two. That means I'm having to make adjustments, including adjustments and getting beat up emotionally, but we'll talk about that in a couple minutes as well. So settle in, grab a soda, grab a coffee, whatever you need to do. Grab a sandwich if your time zone's right. Grab dinner if it's not, whatever. I know one of the things that's great about this community is it's international, so we never know what time zones. We got people all over the place, different countries, Australia, Germany. I've had all over the U.S., and so it's really cool to be able to talk to people from all over the world. Most people are fantastic. A few people not so fantastic, but it is what it is. All right, about 1 minute. 1 minute. And then we will get started, and I will do some form of monologue. We'll talk about things. We'll settle in. I'll take questions and answers. I'll explain the whole format, what we're going to go for today. And then, we'll see where it goes. Flying off the cuff a little bit today. YouTube viewership is trending upwards. So that's awesome to see. Used to be I would fight for 5 people to be on YouTube. Now YouTube's getting up, and sometimes we've been up in 50 with TikTok, which is crazy. So YouTube definitely has taken off. Okay, so we're at the top of the hour. I was about to say 6 o'clock. I'm so used to going live at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time that going live at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is a new thing for me. So let me do a slight introduction. If you are new to the channel, my name is Lee. I'm the co-owner of the Devil's Advocates LLC, Devil's Advocate Group LLC. On the website above on TikTok or into the side on YouTube, you'll see our main website. That's devilsadvocates.info. I'm going to center it on TikTok because it wasn't centered very well. I haven't kept up on the website like I wanted to. My partner said, hey, look, your website should be your primary source. I haven't kept up on it because hardly anybody goes there. I guess I really should be making an effort, but you may have no idea how much time and effort I have to put in to putting out content and stuff like that. And so if I felt that more people were going to the website to get daily updates on what's going, I would certainly be inspired to keep that updated. Right now, people mostly come to my channels to find out what I'm talking about every day, and so that's been the primary way to keep up on it. I follow 2 primary cases. I'm a true crime podcaster, social media influencer. My shtick, if you will, is the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law. I use high-profile cases to accentuate how mainstream media tends to convict people in the court of public opinion I seem to always stumble on that phrase. And how law enforcement tactics sometimes are overhanded. When they believe that they got the right guy, they'll take steps to make sure they get the right guy convicted, even though they sometimes do things illegally to convict their guy or to get their guy into court. And then how the judicial system seems to have failed us, because in a system that believes in the presumption of innocence, we incarcerate more people in the United States than other places at a higher rate than anyone else. We incarcerate more of the world's population. The prison population is in the United States, which doesn't seem congruent with a nation that believes in the presumption of innocence. So the two high-profile cases that I follow the most right now are Luigi Mangione, alleged shooter of Brian Thompson, United Healthcare CEO, back in December, and the Idaho 4 case, Brian Koberger, the alleged perpetrator of the events who slaughtered 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho in 2022. His trial is about to start here, scheduled to start seating the jury in a couple weeks. Well, no, actually, sorry, in a month and a half. So, and the trial starts in August. That's if we don't have a continuance granted, because there has been a huge fallout from a mainstream media attack, which is what I focus on, mainstream media. If you didn't know or didn't see, last night I had Ali Benevento on my show. She's a criminal defense attorney of 15 plus years in South Carolina. She's got a TikTok channel. You might want to check out her. You should check out her, Ali Benevento, on TikTok if you're not following her. I don't know if she has a YouTube yet. I haven't talked to her about YouTube, but I've gone live with her a couple times. I've also gone live with another attorney, Cynthia Thornton. I find that our viewers love it when I have an attorney on, because I talk a lot about the law and I give opinions about legal documents. And sometimes people want to have that extra pat on the back or encouragement that what I'm saying is accurate. And so I've had attorneys on who will ask, hey, am I getting this right? Am I getting this wrong? And they'll tell me where they think I got it right or they got it wrong. To my benefit, I guess, the attorneys who I've had on, super, super down-to-earth women. They're fantastic, smart people. And for the most part, they say that I do really well at covering law cases. But I'm not an attorney. So I like to have an attorney on to say, hey, if I don't understand this, and last night was a perfect example. There was some legal stuff that I didn't understand, and Ali helped sort that out a little bit for us and explain those things. So again, watch Ali Benevento if you haven't done so. The show from last night where Ali and I were on, we talked about Luigi for about a half hour. We talked about Brian Koberger for about a half hour. That is available for you to rewatch on YouTube. On my channel, my main channel on YouTube is Devil's Advocates 2024, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's it. I have a backstage account called Devil's Advocates Backstage. That's kind of what I would call a family channel. It's about me as a man, as a person. I also use the backstage account to have Friday night after my live. I have a adults only broadcast that's 18 and older. We broadcast on Discord so people can jump in. We can talk, have a conversation, have a few drinks, say things that we can't say on TikTok, and say things that we won't say on the monetized side, if you will, of YouTube. So you want to follow the backstage account if you like a little bit more adult content, a little bit more open conversation. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief overview of what happened to my account. I know you may not care so much, but I want to share with you my personal trials and tribulations, and then we'll open up for questions and answers on either Luigi Mangione or Brian Koberger's situation in Idaho 4. I'm willing to bounce back and forth. Sometimes some of my most enjoyable moments is bouncing back and forth. I do realize that some of you only want to follow one case or the other, and you'd like to know, can I please stay for just the first half and then get out if you're going to, and separate the stuff. As much as possible, when I have news, I will dedicate it to either Luigi Mangione or Brian Koberger based on the news. And there is some new news in the Brian Koberger situation. There's some new court documents that dropped, but there really isn't a whole lot to talk about. I may talk about it a little bit, but there's not a whole lot to talk about. Certainly not an hour's worth of content. So where was I going with that? I was going to tell you what happened on YouTube in the last 24 hours. So 1,000 subscribers is a milestone in YouTube. It allows you to be fully monetized so that you can have commercials if you want on your ads or on your videos. And I have been under that 1,000 mark for quite a while, and in overnight practically I'm at now 1,600, 1,700 I think followers, somewhere around there on YouTube. It exploded, and I even had to try to figure out what happened. I had 2 videos back to back that got a lot of traction, one of which has just completely gotten my ass kicked by a bunch of negative comments. Unfortunately, or fortunately as the case may be, in the social media world, negative attention is good attention. Any attention is good attention. If what you say evokes response and engagement, that's a good thing from social media standpoint, right? And unfortunately, fortunately, let me say this. I, being a people pleaser and having a little bit of a thin skin, which I am constantly working on, I really am working on to not have such a thin skin. But being a people pleaser, when I read negative comments, I give them 10 times weight, right? So I probably was only getting maybe 15-20% negative comments and a good 75% positive comments, but it felt like I was getting more negative than positive. When I back and looked at it after pocketing my emotions and my feelings, I was like, you know what, more comments are positive than negative, and your account is growing exponentially, so be thankful that people are chewing your ass out and being negative, because that's showing engagement to YouTube, and it's serving it up to more people because they're like, hey, look, people are pissed off. Watch this guy. And more people than not aren't pissed off. So it's been super difficult for me. It's super challenging. I am a people pleaser. I like people. I want to connect with people. I do this to connect with people. But I also have to realize that you can't please all of the people all the time. As a perfect example, I talk really fast. I have people tell me all the time, slow down. And then I have people tell me, no, don't slow down. The reason I like you is because you talk so fast and you're passionate. I can't make both those people happy. So at the end of the day, I've got to be me. So if you don't like swear words, please don't tell me to stop swearing. If you can't handle somebody who talks fast, please don't tell me to slow down. I'm going to have to. This is the part that's tough for me to say as a people pleaser. I'm going to have to be me. Because there's part of me that hears when you say, please slow down, quit talking so fast, quit shouting, quit saying so many F-bombs. At the end of the day, what you're saying is you don't like me. So if you don't like me, find another content provider. Now, enough of that. So, I had a video that was controversial. I'm willing to talk about the video that I put out if you watched it. This is specifically the Brett Payne, Moscow Police Department Corporal Brett Payne, and Brent Kopacka, and every time I mention Kopacka's name, people lose their ever love of mind, which is the reason why at the beginning of that video I did a whole bunch of disclaimers of please don't crucify me, I'm just trying to ask some questions. To which I got crucified with, would you shut up already with the repeating how you're just trying to be a critical thinker? You've said it like 17 million times. Shut the hell up. So I had to pocket that. I did say it too much on that video. I don't want to say it anymore now. But that's what happened, is I was trying to be apologetic and say, look, I already know that as soon as you hear this guy's name, you're going to lose your shit. And so let me try to calm that down. And in my effort to calm that down, I got beat up with, would you stop telling us to, whatever. And so I am working on it. As I said on a backstage video, message received. I will work very, very hard on not repeating repeating myself. I will not be repeating myself as much as I did on that video. So I'm working on that. I try not to shout a whole lot, but again, some people say they like it when I get animated and I get kind of, so I got to be me. So anyways, I think that's enough of an intro. Again, today is open questions and answers. I go usually for about an hour. I've got a lot of new followers. Hundreds of people have signed on in the last 24 hours. So there's hundreds of new people who may be seeing their first live for the first time. If you're one of those people, please let me know. If you have a question about Bryan Kohberger or Luigi Mangione, I believe I'm pretty up to date on both cases. I have been on Luigi's case from day one. I have been on Kohberger's case early on, took a hiatus when they went to a huge unprecedented gag order, and apparently it felt like all we were going to hear is rumors, and I wasn't doing podcasting or YouTubing at that time, so I was just a guy interested. So I was interested in Idaho 4 from day one and did some research in the early stages, but I quickly dropped out because a gag order came in place and it wasn't my job to stay on top of it. A few months ago, I got back into Bryan Kohberger and said I'm going to get back into up to speed. And so sometimes what happens is, see, look at that. I'm getting beat up. Look at that. This is what I'm talking about. Somebody's already shitting on me in TikTok. And here he goes with the intro that he said he was done with. See, this is what I got to deal with. I got to get over that. All right. Questions and answers, everyone. Questions and answers. I will take that with a grain of salt. Another person kicking my ass. Tell me what's going on. What do you got? Got any questions? Moderators are here. If you're a moderator, you can pin comments for me. Tell me if you got something for me, a question. Congrats on the 1,600 subs. Thank you so much. That was so unexpected. I went from 900 and something and begging to like, oh my gosh, can we get there finally, to how the hell did I wake up the next day and I got 1,600 when I was fighting to get to 1,000. So thank you so much, Jeff, for that. Appreciate that. Comments or questions? Did anybody catch the live last night with Ali Benevento? If you caught the live with Ali, what did you think of Ali? Did you like her? Have you seen her before? What's your thought about that? Did you catch the controversial video? And if you could get past the intro of that video, did you find anything interesting? Did you and it's tough because when you do that kind of content, sometimes I'm learning something for the first time that other people will be quick to remind me, you're so behind the ball. Everybody knows about this already. They've been talking about it for 2 years. And then I'll have people in the same stream saying, this was new to me. I'd never heard it. So I would caution people who say, everyone knows this already when I comment about something. Also keep in mind, one person accused me of ripping off other content creators. Please cite your source and give credit to other people who have been covering this for 2 years before you. I didn't see it from somebody 2 years before. That was something new that I found. So I wish people wouldn't accuse me of stealing someone else's content or idea. That was the first time I had seen the information I presented. But I'm being asked to please, basically apologize to the person I ripped off, and I didn't rip off anybody. See, look at that. I'm doing apologetics. Stop it. Give me some questions. Give me some questions on the case. I need to be modded on this account if you can do that. Okay, I thought you were modded on this account. Let's make sure. I thought I added you on the TikTok side already. Maybe not on this account, but it doesn't look like I have the option to, so we may have to work that out later. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry about that, but I can't just click on your name and make you a mod like I did on the other one. So I did that on YouTube, by the way. I did it on YouTube. So if you're talking about YouTube, Luigi, I took care of that. You should be a mod now on the YouTube side. Questions, comments. Are you familiar with the never forget the foundation in the bathtub? No, I'm not, Jeff. Holy crap. What is that? Is this related to the Idaho 4 case? Or is that just like a general thing? I'm curious. That does not ring a bell. Never forget the foundation in the bathtub. Or is that just like a general like food for thought kind of thing? Jennifer says she hasn't heard of it either. Thank God, Jennifer, for having my back, that I'm not the only person who's completely ignorant to what's going on. I appreciate that, because sometimes I feel like I'm out there in left field. I'm like, everybody knows that. Why aren't you talking about it? And then, of course, people who don't know are like, I'm not going to admit that I didn't know that, because then I'll look like an idiot. This is from what I believe to be Xana's last TikTok comment. From 4:12 a.m. You never find lots of trolls on here. Idaho 4 case. New to you. Yeah. So in relation to Xana Kernodle being, I remember hearing this timestamp as well, that Xana was active on TikTok at 4:12. So I don't know for 100% that I feel confident, but that's what I've said as well, that we know that Xana was on TikTok at 4:12 a.m. Because that's what they have officially stated, that they can confirm that she was active on which, again, when you're doing a time frame of when the murders happened, you have to factor in Xana was still alive at 4:12 a.m. The car speeds away at 4:20. So you've only got an 8-minute gap between the last time we quote unquote know Xana was active on the phone and when the car sped away. So that's important stuff for time thing. Now, as far as the bathtub comment, I don't know, but I wonder if you're going here. There was a comment early on about the whole Dylan Heard, it's okay, I'm here to help you. And there was an indication that someone had indicated that may have been something that was on TikTok, that it may not have been something the killer said, that Dylan heard the killer saying, but rather was something that was played on TikTok and was misunderstood as the killer in the house saying, it's okay, I'm here to help you. Which is, if that's the case, it's super interesting, because over and over and over again, we hear Dylan heard the killer say, it's okay, I'm here to help you. And that gets repeated constantly. But there has been some indication that may have been something that was playing on TikTok. So I used a website called Unfurl to validate the time the TikTok comment was posted. Nice, Jeff. Nice. You may have to. Well, you don't have to do shit, but I will have to try to remember after this show about unfurl. Or I would ask you, friend me, send me a private message, whatever. I read all the comments. Maybe just leave it as a comment in the chat, whatever. Not this chat, like on a video or something like that, so I can remember to go back and look at that, and maybe add another tool to my arsenal once I figure out how it works and how trustworthy it is. What do you know about any deadlines in the Mangione case? Okay, so yeah. So Mangione's case has a date of 6/26 as in the state court case in New York for some action to happen. Now, what we're all waiting for in the Luigi Mangione case is a response from the judge. Apparently I'm drinking too much soda. I've got the hiccups and the burps and all kinds of stuff now going on. And thank you, Ophelia, for the gift. So all that's happening is in the Commonwealth case, Thomas Dickey filed a motion that said the arrest was illegal of Luigi Mangione in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and here's the reasons why. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania responded to that and said that arrest was not illegal, and here's all the reasons why, point by point to Thomas Dickey's thing. Now, what we're waiting for is for the judge to rule. Was it, Judge, an illegal arrest? Or was part of it illegal and part of it wasn't? All of those things we all rhetorically are waiting with bated breath to find out, was the arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania legal or not? And if it wasn't illegal, does that mean they no longer have the gun? They no longer have the manifesto? Which the whole manifesto shit, don't even get me started. I mean, you can, because we got nothing else to do, but the manifesto thing, the confession letter allegedly, the tons of money in the backpack and a passport indicating he was going to flee, is all of that horse shit and all of that tossed out because the entire arrest was illegal. And if that's the case, how does that impact the federal case? Because if they no longer have a gun and a signed confession and a manifesto, pardon my French, and all those things, then what does the state of New York have on him? What does the federal government have on him if they don't have the smoking gun, proverbially speaking, and the manifesto? So that's what we're all waiting for. There's no big deadline per se. The only official deadline that I know about, I believe, is, and let's look. I'm going to show it on screen. Let's go to LuigiMangioneInfo.com. If you're not aware of this website, this is the official website maintained by his attorneys, specifically Karen Agnifilo. You will see a section that I'm highlighting here on the screen, case updates. I'll try to center it a little better for you on TikTok. Case updates, this is the litigation calendar. Friday 4/25 is already done. Thursday, this is the one that we've got. Thursday, 6/26 at 9 a.m. is a scheduled appearance of the People versus Mangione in the state of New York. You'll notice Commonwealth of Mangione, Pennsylvania State, has no date. It's to be determined. So, based on what I'm telling you, this is the only thing we know for sure is going to happen, and the next scheduled date is 6/26. Now, I will tell you this. I'm looking on screen instead of the camera. This to be determined Commonwealth, I kind of expect that to happen before the 6/26. So I ask people from time to time to use your listening skills and listen carefully to what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. Technically, the only date we have on the calendar is 6/26. But if you see something happening before that, don't say, you're wrong, Mr. Devil's Advocates, something did happen before that. Well, that's because we've got a TBD, to be determined Commonwealth versus Mangione in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's going to happen sometime, and we don't know when that's going to happen. So, hope that answers your question. If not, ask it again, or I'll take another stab at it. She commented Queen on a post. You must be talking, I think, about Xana Kernodle in the Idaho 4. Again, we bounce back and forth pretty quickly. Let's look over here. I should have my glasses on. I didn't bring a pair of glasses. If my wife's listening to my feed in the other room, maybe she can bring me a pair of glasses, because I freaking need a pair of glasses sometimes for the small print. Getting old, being a boomer sucks ass. I don't necessarily not recommend it, but anyways. She pointed Queen at the 3:45 a.m. and never forget the foundation in the bathtub at 4:12. I've been meaning to do a video on my channel about the unfurl method. Any chance the killer, as he put a blanket over Xana, said, TikTok, it's okay, I'm going to help you. I don't, That part I have to be careful of, Jeff. The question about the killer put a blanket over Xana. I have to be careful. I try to vet things. So I hear a lot of rumors, and what you'll find, I think, is I don't run with a lot of rumors. I do sometimes repeat rumors when it fits in with something I've already vetted a little bit and go, okay, I vetted this. I feel this is pretty strong information. And the rumor has it that this coincides with it. But there are a million things that I don't feel comfortable commenting on. And whether or not the killer put a blanket on Xana is one of those ones that I'm not willing to comment too much on, because it's just something I haven't vetted enough where I can feel confident with that. Any other comments? Comments or questions? Again, I have to be careful about dead air. It's so hard for me to just sit there in silence. And Jeff, what is your channel? I don't know if you can. You said that you were meaning to do a video for your channel, so you, I'm presuming, have a YouTube channel. I don't know that I have been to it, so if I haven't been to it, I'd like to know what your YouTube channel is. I will, again, if you send me a private message or something where I can hyperlink from you, I will go check out your channel. And if you want to, if you can, and you want to put it in the chat, you have my permission to put it in the chat. I don't know what your slant is. I don't know if you're, you know, if you've got a take on guilt or innocence and all that good stuff like that. But, you know, you have my permission, if they'll let you get away with it, to put your channel in there. But I know that YouTube tends to frown on people promoting their own stuff in somebody else's live. So, again, you have my permission, but whether or not TikTok will let you do it, I don't know. Any chance the killer... Oh, sorry. It's funny. I've got two different places where I'm seeing my my chat. On YouTube, and there's a delay in one of my chat. It's the same exact chat, but I'm just getting your question on. I got to pay attention to which place I'm going to look. And apparently, my wife does not listen to this. Is not listening to this feed, so I'm not getting those glasses anytime soon. All right, let's see here. Let's just get back to my main website. Well, yeah, I was just going to get back to my main website. By the way, for those who are unfamiliar, and since you're here right now, until I get another question. What's the channel name? My channel, the most uncreative name ever. It's just Jeff H. That is very succinct, sir. All right. If you look, I've got two links on my website, which I'm showing above. And again, I have to kind of center this on TikTok. Idaho 4, Luigi Mangione. Those are the two cases I primarily... There's a hidden page, by the way. There's a hidden page that is P. Diddy. I've decided for various reasons not to cover P. Diddy on my channel. But I have timelines. I like timelines, especially when I'm trying to do research. And remember, did this happen before this or after that? So let's look at those real quick if you haven't been here before. Fire questions at me, by the way, and I'll look at them when I get back. For the meantime, I'm going to show you a few things on my website. So I'm going to click on Idaho 4. And then we're going to go down here. If you look, here's an Idaho 4. It starts out with the summary with some of my ideas and some of my thoughts about my personal feelings are on the matter. And then I start documenting dates that are important to me, such as, and here we go, don't crucify me, I mentioned the birth date of Brent Lee Kopacka. Why the hell does that matter? Just relax. It's on the timeline. And then if you look through here, I got a timeline that goes through a whole bunch of stuff. Important things that I think might come up later in research, all the way down through timestamps of various things that we believe, the timing of suspect vehicle seen in the area, suspect vehicle seen in the area, blah, 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 blah. I've got stuff, and I've got sources linked in here. You'll see hyperlinks to various news stories. So this is what I do to try to organize my thoughts and fact check myself later on when I'm like, man, did that happen before or after such and such? This is a timeline. You might find it useful if you're new to the case and you want to get up to speed. Look at how much there was to read. There's a lot there, but you will get up to speed on a lot of things. Now, a lot of the newer stuff, this timeline happened in the beginning of my investigation. It probably doesn't have a lot of the new stuff. And so you might want to read it to get a recap of the old stuff and then start watching my videos to get caught up on the new stuff. Here's Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione gets a little bit more interesting, and I'll catch, I got a Steve Goncalves comment over here from Jeff on YouTube. I'll check that out in just a second. Luigi Mangione, this is interesting. I've got a summary. I've got multiple theories in this case. One called the game theory, one called basically follow the money. The green text is money, green for money. So if you follow this, I'm going to start tracking a lot of money things. There's a lot of money motivation in the Luigi Mangione United Healthcare health insurance thing. So I've got pictures. Again, if you're not familiar with Luigi Mangione's case and you're thinking, what's the big hubbub? It's really simple. We know who did it. We saw him on camera shooting somebody. You need to take a look at this timeline and rethink things a little bit. So anyways, there's the timeline. There's a bunch of the money. You can see green text. So just letting you know, if you're brand new to the channel and you're not familiar, here's our, links to the arrest complaint in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Lots of good stuff. Yeah. So check it out. Just letting you know it's there for your benefit. When people prove that they're actually watching my website a little bit for details, there's a what new section. What's new, this is where I try to post updates on a regular basis of what's coming up. Things like my backstage party announcement and a link to that, reminders of lives and things like that. So the more people that pay attention to the website, the more likely I'm going to keep that updated every single day. All right, Jeff, let's look at this question. Steve Goncalves, hey, Ethan and Xana, could have totally been covered up to where you just flip that blanket over and then all of a sudden you understand the impact of what really happened. Oh, oh yes. Steve Goncalves, man. It's funny. Ali Benevento and I talked about this last night. We talked about whether or not the family has the right to talk about a case. For example, Steve Goncalves' daughter, Kaylee Goncalves, was murdered in the Idaho 4. And a gag order was put in place where the prosecution and the defense weren't to leak information to the public and law enforcement wasn't to leak information to the public. But the families presumably are able to talk about things because their First Amendment right to speak about it. So Steve Goncalves continues to come out with a bunch of stuff. But keep in mind, if you're familiar with the case, Steve Goncalves early on told us that part of the reason why Dylan acted the way that she did was the door was closed. Xana was on the floor and Ethan was on the floor. Xana was on the floor, or whatever the case may be. But the bottom line was that the door was closed, and so therefore it was unclear what had happened. Dylan didn't see anything. That was an early comment that Steve Goncalves said. It has later come out in many documents that door was open and that Dylan saw Xana laying on the floor and thought that she was drunk and passed out. Saw her with her feet towards the door and her head towards to the wall. But Steve told us flat out the door was closed. And people for years would be angry at other people. You need to shut the hell up. That door was closed. Steve told us so. But now we find out that wasn't the case. The door was open. So now who are you going to believe? The person who's telling you things about the crime scene that the officials say that's not what happened, or do you believe the officials and what they say happened? So I don't know what to say. Yes, Jeff, I didn't think you were sorry. Let me be clear, Jeff. I wasn't taking issue with you. I was taking issue with the statement by Steve Goncalves. It was if anything, it was a questioning Steve Goncalves as a source. That's all. So please, Jeff, don't understand that wasn't directed at you. That was directed at when we quote Steve Goncalves. I feel we should take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because he keeps adding details that change the narrative on a regular basis. And I sympathize. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, but I won't say it a million times for those of you who think I say things too many times. I sympathize with Steve Goncalves as a father. I'm not a father, so I don't sympathize him as a father. But what I'm saying is I can understand how he's in a very difficult situation. And so I feel sorry for him and his family that this happened to his family. Having said that, Steve Goncalves is shooting himself in the foot a little bit by talking the way that he talks to the press and the Drunk Turkey Show and every podcaster who wants to presume Kohberger's guilt, and it's making it look bad. I feel personally that it would be good if Steve would let justice take its place and quit interjecting thoughts on the case, which is not going to help in the long run, in my opinion. That's what I got about that. Any comments, questions? Brian Kohberger, Luigi Mangione, other questions? Jeff's like, you do need your glasses. That was quote straight from Steve. I saw the quotes. And I just addressed that, so hopefully we're good now. But yeah, I do need the glasses. Well, I mean, again, I saw the quotes. I did. So yeah, what else do we got? Any other questions, comments, concerns, feedback? Again, did anybody catch last night's live with Ali? Did anybody catch my video? And if you did catch my video, the one that I've been beat up by a million people about, you don't need to talk for 20 minutes about how you're a critical thinker. You don't need to say that again here. You could just say, yeah, I saw that. I get it. That'd be great. But I mean, I am putting on the big boy pants so I can take more. But I got that message. I got that message. Do you know if Steve has done any other interviews after he found out about the truth? Well, is that Michelle? The question, the way you worded the question is difficult for me, because you're saying after he found out about the truth. I don't know what Steve knows. I don't know what truth Steve thinks he has. Steve has done a lot. Steve has done a lot of interviews on. He's talked to the New York Post early on in the investigation. He talked to multiple Idaho TV stations. He's talked to tons of podcasters, true crime people that he likes and enjoys. He's very, very active on the case and talks to a lot of people. Do you know if Steve's done any other interviews after he found out about that? I think yes. In fact, so what you're asking is, after it became known that the door was open. Okay, I want to be careful because I don't remember the quote exactly. I'm gonna only say it once or twice because I don't want to beat a dead horse. I'm going off of memory. Steve Goncalves had an interview where they were asking him about these new kind of details, is what I remember, about the door being open. And Steve's comment, literally, from what I remember, was something to the extent of, you know, the details are confusing and I don't know that it really matters. The details are confusing and I don't know that it really matters. Bottom line is, and then he goes off onto some narrative. Well, that's what I remember. I remember when he said that, I thought, how the hell do you say details don't matter? For 2 years, we've been going on the door's closed theory, and now we know the door's open, and the response basically is, I don't know that the details really matter that much. The devil is in the details. This is coming from the devil's advocates. The devil is in the details. So I would beg to differ about, I don't know that it really matters about the details or not. Yeah, it does for me. If the door was open or if it's closed, if Dylan did or didn't see Xana face down on the floor and thought she was drunk, and then 8 hours later sees her still face down on the floor and still thinks she's drunk, those details matter. I'm sorry if we don't think the details matter. You know when, and unfortunately, and this is not directed at Steve, unfortunately, you know who the details don't matter to? The people who believe that Brian Koberger is guilty and this is an open and shut case. Then the details don't really matter. We know who did it, so let's just get the trial over because we know what happened. The details don't matter because we know what happened. I'm not in that camp, so the details totally matter. Good questions. Is it true because the rest between the family members of all the families? I'm not sure if I understand that question. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I need my freaking glasses. He seemed upset that he was finding out that the door was open because he had been told his... Yes, Michelle, I got that impression as well, that Steve Goncalves was a little taken aback by finding out that the door was open. And here's the thing. My gut tells me a law enforcement or prosecution insider has been feeding Steve Goncalves information this entire time. That same person is probably the one who's in trouble right now with Stephen Hippler for leaking information to Dateline NBC. So I think let me make this clear. To give Steve Goncalves the benefit of the doubt, if Steve has an insider in law enforcement, like the FBI or a prosecutor, and they're telling him things, I can understand to some extent why Steve Goncalves is 100% convinced who the killer is. Because he's got an insider saying, look, Steve, we know who it is, and this is it. And they're giving him information. And yeah, I could also see how if later it comes out in court documents that that's not what happened, Steve would be taken aback. Because he's like, wait a minute, I was told by my insider who said this is how it's happened, one thing, and now I'm hearing something else. And that's going to put him in an embarrassing situation. So if I were playing devil's advocates for Steve Goncalves, it could explain some of his behavior. if he has a law enforcement insider or a prosecution insider feeding him information, and it turns out that that person now is telling him wrong information, he's stuck looking like the jackass. Any other comments or questions? Someone says on YouTube, I'm new here, but I watched 3 of your latest videos last night, and I love your content. Thank you so much. I was in a way, I was like, oh my God, I hope one of the videos you watched last night wasn't the big one that's got like 15,000 views this morning, because that's the one that everybody's beating my ass like a rented mule on. But you know what? It sounds like you like it anyways, so if it was one of the things, I guess I don't need to worry about it. But man, I almost like, don't watch that video, because apparently that one makes a lot of people mad. And I'm wondering how many people will never, ever give my channel a shot because they couldn't handle that video. Other comments, question. I'd really like to know if he's tried talking to anyone since he's found out about the door open. Yeah, there's a lot of questions I'd like to know. For sure. And again, I'm trying to give some grace, to the family to be able to they're emotional. They want answers. Keep in mind, in the early stages of this investigation, Steve Goncalves even thought that the police had overlooked certain suspects too quickly, and flat out said, because I think he is a little bit of a critical thinker himself, show me the evidence of this person's alibi and I'll let it go. But he wants to see it for himself. He made a comment like that. He's like, I think you ruled somebody out too quickly, so show me what you got so I can move on. Because he's not the kind of person, maybe, who just takes your word for it and goes, okay, good enough, you told me it's that way, so it must be. He's like, show me the evidence so I can know for myself that that's good information and I can move on and stop having that question. Sam Smith, a shiny new person. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you will stick around, watch some of my long form content. I'm not sure if you are interested in Luigi's case or in Idaho 4, but I cover both. So I think I've got playlists on YouTube. You can find the topic, which one of those cases you want, and dig into a little bit and see what you think. Steve Goncalves from March, quote, Jeff, Hunter, told me that he was he went to the door and he was trying to go through the door and he was trying to figure out what was going on. Yes, I remember that statement. I remember that statement very much. I don't think Steve Goncalves is a stranger to looking like a jackass. Did you notice, though, that he said he's going to keep an open mind at the trial? That is different than what he's been saying previously. Shannon, 100% true. One of the things I took exception about, here I'm going to repeat myself from a previous video because I ranted then and I'm probably going to rant now. One of the things Steve said was, I can't wait for this trial to start because I'm going to blow the whole lid off this thing. And I said then and I said now, Steve, no, you're not going to blow the whole lid off this thing. The defense has to know during the discovery process what the prosecution has. You're not sitting on information that the defense doesn't already know about. So I don't know what you think you're going to do in the courtroom to blow the lid off of everything, unless you're going to do something that you weren't supposed to do. Because again, Steve has to know. Steve has to have been getting his information from the prosecution. Anything the prosecution knows, the defense has to know. So I don't think Steve's going to blow the lid off of anything in the courtroom. Now, he may have also indicated you all in the media, or you all in the public, are going to be surprised when you find out what comes out in trial. I'll buy that. I'll buy that. It's possible Steve Goncalves knows things about this case that we have never heard. I don't doubt that. And maybe it'll surprise us. But also, I want to say the counter to this. So many people feel like what they saw is proof when it's not. For example, I'm going to use Luigi's case for just an example of this. In Luigi's case, we see on video a shooter shoot Brian Thompson point blank on camera. There are people who will tell you to this day, there's no question whether Luigi did it. We saw him do it on camera. No, you did not. You saw a masked man who you cannot possibly identify from that video footage, I guarantee you, who the shooter was. You're extrapolating because later on, New York Police Department came up with a video from a hostel with a guy who pulled his mask down, who some people say looks like Luigi, and other people think looks like Jake Gyllenhaal, that's the same person. But you don't know if that's the same person. You saw a masked man. And there are people who will say convincingly, I know who did it, I saw him on camera, And so the question becomes, is Steve Goncalves the same way? Steve Goncalves has been told, I'm going to play devil's advocates for a moment. Steve Goncalves has been told by law enforcement, we see Bryan Kohberger driving to the scene, parking outside the house, and speeding away after the murders. Therefore, we know Bryan Kohberger is the guy. And by the way, here's a video of a car arriving at the scene and a car leaving, which is Bryan Kohberger's. If Steve Goncalves trusts that information, he's going to say the same kind of thing. There's no question what happened. I've seen it with my own eyes. He drove there and did it. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you saw a car that they told you was Bryan Kohberger's and you don't know that it is arriving, and it may not even be the same car that you see leaving, but you were told it was. And so I don't blame you to some extent by saying, I know who did it, I saw him come and go, but I would like to have a sit-down conversation and a beer with Steve Goncalves and say, did you actually see Bryan Kohberger step out of the car, or did they tell you that's Bryan Kohberger's car and that's why you're saying, I saw Bryan Kohberger do it? Because I want to get into the weeds. Did you really see it, or you just, in your mind, you have to have somebody responsible, and so you allow it? Okay, I saw him. I can tell you he did it. I don't know. I wonder if it has something to do with the new open door information. I tried putting my parent shoes on, and based on the info I have, would be going after roommates and hammering Hunter. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we would probably do differently if it was our family. But it's been said a million times, people grieve different ways, people act different ways. In my opinion, Christy Goncalves is not on the same page with her husband, Steve Goncalves. They have different opinions about what happened. They have different feelings about what happened. That's also normal. Everybody reacts differently. So, yeah. And again, that's why I say I like to give Steve a little grace, because I don't know what he's going through. I imagine he has horrible nightmares and has replayed things in his head a million times. And that's another thing to say where you get convinced of something. In his mind, he's been told certain facts about Bryan Kohberger. In his dreams, he's probably imagined what that would have looked like. He's implanting subliminal messages into his head that he has seen Bryan Kohberger do it because he's told it is Bryan Kohberger. Then he imagines, what was my daughter experiencing? What was she going through? And then your mind plays tricks on you, and you become convinced. I know he did it because I've seen it in my mind. I've played it over in my head over and over and over again. That's an easy thing for any of us to do. Michelle, thank you for the follow on YouTube, for letting me know you're following me over there. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I want to know how they were so sure Hostile Guy is the shooter. Sorry, switching it up. No, don't worry. This is a free-for-all for the time being. We got about 15 minutes for a free-for-all. To play devil's advocates with how they're so sure. The feds, I believe, are going to tell you they've tracked Luigi Mangione arriving in New York. They know what bus he came in on. They've seen him on camera at the bus station. They know what taxi he took. They know where he arrived next. They've got a string of pieces of information that follow his movements. So to play devil's advocates, I believe the prosecution and law enforcement is going to tell you we are confident Luigi Mangione because we can track his movements and we know that's the same guy. Thank you for asking the question. Now, again, for the rest of us, we have to ask the chain of custody whether or not all of those things are true, and that's something a jury is going to see. We probably won't even get to see it, and we have to trust that when they present it to a jury, that a jury can follow the logic and believe or not believe that they got the same guy. And let me make sure, for those who are new to me, how I view Luigi Mangione. Both Luigi Mangione and Bryan Kohberger are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, in my opinion. And I will give them that benefit of the doubt of innocent until proven guilty. Do I have gut feelings as to whether or not the individuals were guilty of the crime that they're being accused of or not? Sure, I have feelings about it. But my channel focuses on the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, and proving it in a court of law, and proving it legally, meaning that even if either one of these individuals are guilty of what they're doing, you can't plant evidence, you can't do illegal things, you can't violate their civil liberties, you can't do any of these things, even if they are guilty. And so my content is focused on presumption of innocence until proven guilty. Now, I teased before that I have a late night show. I have a late night show called After Dark on Friday nights. So I go live at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I go on Discord and we have a few drinks and we let the hair down. I'll be much more blunt about how I feel about these individuals and what I think that whether they did or they didn't do it in that forum. But I avoid commenting a lot of that on TikTok and YouTube because it gets into some sketchy areas. And I don't even want to explain that to you, because to explain why it's a sketchy area, it's areas that community guidelines won't be favorable of. So if you want to know and you're curious and you're adult and you're 18 older and you want to hear some frank discussion on it, come join me during an after hour party and ask me again, how do you feel about it? But channel wise, we are always going to present the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law. And I will hold mainstream media accountable for their bullshit. I will be skeptical as hell about law enforcement tactics. I will examine the judicial system. As far as the after hour party, so my main channel on YouTube is Devil's Advocates 2024. My backstage account is called Devil's Advocates Backstage on YouTube. If you find that and subscribe to it, you should get notified about the next live on the backstage, if that's what you're asking about. The backstage is recorded from Discord so that you can hear voices and audio of everybody who's in there. So if you don't want people to hear what you're saying on YouTube, don't talk in Discord. I'll remind you when we get in there that you're being recorded and broadcast on YouTube. We broadcast that audio stream to my backstage account on YouTube so that people on YouTube could just listen if they'd like and listen to the discussion going on in the Discord channel. I hope that makes sense. If you get a hold of me early, because now we're looking at what? Are we on Thursday? We're on Thursday. If you get a hold of me early, I'll make sure you get that Discord channel link so that you can get my Discord server pinned, and then you won't have problems getting in on the night. When Jeff is asking, when they arrested Luigi, did he have something like a manifesto in his backpack? That is such a great question, Jeff. Let me tell you the way that I would explain it. Luigi Mangione allegedly had a notebook of personal notes in the backpack. It has been said in multiple places now that notebook included thoughts that Luigi Mangione had from 2017. We know that Luigi Mangione had a back issue, a spondy injury, a surfing injury. He struggled with pain. He struggled with a surgery and the aftercare, and he had written thoughts in a notebook. Law enforcement found said notebook allegedly, because again, whether or not that notebook exists or not is all under a question about whether or not the how do I get into that? Whether or not the arrest was illegal, whether the search of the backpack was legal, and whether we can admit any of that. And so if we don't admit it, then we don't admit it. But anyways, so the police referred to that red notebook of personal notes. That's what his attorney would call it, his personal notes. And they called it a manifesto. This has been argued about in law by the defense attorney. That is not a manifesto. A manifesto is a document written that is meant to be given to the public to explain why they did what they did. Law enforcement and the prosecution said that's exactly what that was. It was a notebook that he knew was going to get leaked to the media and to the press to explain why he did what he did. The defense attorney said, no, it's not. It's personal notes, and it never went public until you told people what was in the notebook, and you called it a manifesto. So that's why I say, oh my God, don't get me started on the manifesto. Manifesto is a word that the law enforcement used to describe a notebook allegedly in Luigi Mangione's possession at the time of his arrest that included notes about his feelings about a surgery and the healthcare system from maybe as far back as 2017. And the police called that and labeled it a manifesto. And so the long answer to your question is, how do I answer? Did he have a manifesto in his backpack? According to the police, yes. According to his attorney, no. He had a notebook with some personal notes, which they are calling a manifesto. I'm trying to see if I missed anything. Any other comments, questions? Looks like I got questions over here in the tiniest screen. At my tiniest screen, I got questions over here. Steve Goncalves' information might be coming from the PI that he hired. Yeah, could be. I am very curious, though, why it seems like there's a divide between Mr. and Mrs. Goncalves's views on Kohberger's guilt. He used to be less confident. 100%, Shannon. You could not have said that better. Steve and Christy do not appear to be on the same page. Steve was much more open to the idea that we don't know for sure Kohberger did it. We would like to know who did it. We think certain people were ruled out too early. And somewhere along the line, Steve changed his mind and he's all in on the Kohberger train. All in. Now, does that mean that a private investigator that they hired gave him the information that he needs to rest at night and know that for sure Brian's the guy? Does he have an insider in law enforcement who's told him, look, don't worry, it is the guy? Does Steve know something that we don't know and it is the guy? We don't know. But yes, somewhere along the line, Steve went from being open to the idea that Steve would basically say, I don't care who it is, I just want to know what happened. That's where I'm at. I couldn't say it better, Steve Goncalves from early days. I don't care what happened in this case. I want to know what happened. That's all. And what I don't want to have happen, to clarify something a little bit further, and I realize I got other comments in queue here, what I don't want to have happen is for us to send somebody to jail and execute them by firing squad or whatever if there was others involved. Because the idea that multiple people entered that house and did that murder and they get to walk free and they're still on the streets because we didn't care enough to find out what really happened, it was good enough to find a guy and execute him instead of knowing exactly what happened, that bothers me. So I hope that we don't just take the easy answer here and we can figure out with some confidence what really happened and not just be feeling better to go to sleep at night because we killed somebody for it. Let's make sure we get the right guy, and let's make sure that other people didn't walk because one guy took the fall for everybody. What else do we got here? I may actually have been behind bars my own self if it were one of my sons. Understood, Shannon, understood. A criminal sure has the advantage. Criminals operate without any rules at all, whilst investigators are almost strangled with rules and regulations for that crime-solving work. Jeff, I definitely don't want to take issue with you personally, but I want to comment on that. Our system, in my opinion, our system is designed to give the presumption of innocence to the guilty and the accused. It is done that way for a reason. It should, in my opinion, it should be harder for the prosecution to convict people. Because if it's easy for the prosecution to convict people, especially on circumstantial evidence, God help us all if some cop decides that they want to pin us on a murder because it's just easy and it looks good for their records, it looks good for the department to get convictions. And so, hey, you were walking by at the time, you must be the guy, you're guilty, go to jail. Thank God it's hard. It's hard for prosecution to get a conviction. Our system is designed to make it difficult for the prosecution to get a conviction. And I would say this, our founding fathers, if you will, wanted to have a system in which, and I don't know, I'm not them, but I've heard this is what I was taught when I was a child, is that our founding fathers believed in the principle that we would rather a few guilty people go free for something they did than for one innocent person to go to jail for something they didn't do. Because it is abhorrent to think that you have sent somebody to jail and ruined their life for something they didn't do. And we would rather allow a few bad actors go free than one innocent person to go to jail for something they didn't. And so that's where I say it's designed, and I'm thankful myself that it is harder for the prosecution to get a conviction, and it's easier for the defense. That's the way it's supposed to work, in my opinion. Gonna put it out there, but I don't think he is the guy. Just my gut talking. Sam Smith, is that a comment about Luigi Mangione or Brian Kohberger's case? I'm just curious. You don't have to answer that. It could be rhetorical. Jeff adds, I definitely love the presumed innocence until a court of law, but it's clearly possible for a criminal to do a crime and get away with it by court system. Yes, Jeff. Yes. And I hear you. I hear you, man. I do. And I've said this before. This is a gray area, but it's a good talking point. I've said this before. Imagine you're a police officer and you've watched people you know for a fact are guilty walk away with things because of a technicality. You're probably sick and tired of watching a horrible person walk free on a technicality, right? And so there's a part of me that can understand why a law enforcement officer might, for example, coming upon a scene go, oh shit, the knife and the weapon in this murder scene, let's not make it knife because it's too close to one of my real cases. The gun in this murder scene is 50 feet across the street because some stupid kid came and played with the gun and moved it across the street. And if it gets into court that the gun was across the street, it's going to be reasonable doubt. And they're going to say it wasn't the murder weapon or it wasn't in crime. So if I can just pick it up and put it next to the body of this person, then we don't have to deal with that shit. I could understand to some extent why an officer who's like, man, I know what happened. Some kid picked this gun up and moved it across the street and it's going to kill this case. And I'm not going to watch this guy walk on a technicality. So I'm just going to move the gun to where it needs to be. Unfortunately, in my mind, you can't do that. You can't. I understand why you might come to that conclusion. I understand it. But if you have to manipulate the evidence because you know what happened, you are being the judge, jury, and executioner all by yourself. And we have a system designed for you not to do that. Kohberger, you're not sure Kohberger is the guy. Right, I get it. One of my earliest videos on the Kohberger case on TikTok was, what if Brian Kohberger was simply the getaway driver? What if he never went into the house? And now I'm questioning whether Kohberger's car was even there. New evidence is coming out that says Kohberger's car wasn't even at the house at the time of the murders, and and they know that, and they've been hiding it. It's what's called exculpatory information. If the prosecution knows for a fact Brian Kohberger's car wasn't in front of the house during the killings, and they're hiding that, that's exculpatory information, and somebody's in big ass trouble. But yeah, Jeff, I can be sympathetic. I can be sympathetic with an officer, especially if he saw somebody do something and he knows they're going to get off on a technicality, of making sure that that technicality goes away if they can. I can understand it. Unfortunately, I default back to unfortunately, we have to allow one or two guilty people, and it's probably more than one or two, I'll be fair, probably more than one or two, but our system is designed that a few guilty people are going to go free rather than one innocent person go to jail for something. And by the way, I've given this example again, and we're almost done. We're almost going to wrap up now and finish for the day. I've given this example before. There was a time in our history, I quoted the case a while back and now I don't remember it, where the federal government had an informant inside the mafia. He was a hitman for the mafia, but he was informing on the mafia and he was helping them bring down a crime family. During the time that he was an FBI informant, this person committed a murder while being an FBI informant. Not only did the FBI overlook the murder that he committed and just didn't choose to prosecute it, but they helped prosecute a guy who didn't do it so that they could keep their mafia informant on the inside. And for me, I can't live with that. I can't accept that it's okay for our government to let some innocent person go to jail for something they didn't do because they have bigger fish to fry. And too bad that you go to jail for the rest of your life and get your life ruined and everybody thinks you're a murderer when you didn't do it, because we needed to protect an actual murderer because he's going to get his bigger fish down the road. I can't sleep with myself with that shit. I guess I do have to sleep with myself one way or another, but anyways. Shannon adds, even if BK was the getaway driver, he can do as much time as the unaliver. Yes, but I agree, but it does change the dynamics. If the prosecution's case is Brian Kohberger drove there, exited his car, went into the house, killed 4 people, got back in his car and left, and it turns out that he never left his car, he stayed in the car the entire time, or he went in but he didn't go alone, it may change how the trial may need to be retried. In other words, they may get in there and say it couldn't have possibly happened the way you said it did, and they can retry it. Yes, if all he was a driver of taking people to a murder scene and he knew a murder was going to be committed, then he can be convicted as an accomplice to murder in most states. We talked about this, by the way, last night with Ali Benevento, the attorney that I had on. What if he was just a getaway driver? And as she pointed out, in her state, South Carolina, and in many, if not all states, accomplice to murder is the same thing as murder as far as you get a life sentence. But here's the caveat. What if, for example, Brian Kohberger was told by a friend, hey, this chick owes me some money at this house. Can you take me there and just stay outside? I'm going to go in and get my money and I'm going to come back out. Brian Koberger has no idea, for example, in this totally hypothetical situation, that a murder is about to happen. He's like, I'm going to take some guy, he's going to go in the house and he's going to get his money back. And in fact, it's not even a robbery, because he's just getting his money back that somebody owes him. It's not like he's going in there, hey, I'm going to go commit a robbery, and we have that added thing. If he was told simply, wait here, I'm going to go in and get my money back from this person, I'll be right back, and it turned into be a murder, and then he flees, and now all of a sudden he's an accomplice to murder, that's a completely different animal. And Brian Koberger doesn't go to jail as a murderer for killing people just because he drove the car. It really comes down to what did Brian Koberger, and all of this hypothetical crazy scenario is if Brian Koberger was really there. We don't even know for sure Brian Koberger was there. But if he was there and he drove the car there, but he didn't know that a murder was going to happen, that isn't necessarily a death sentence. There are scenarios in which he could have been there, but didn't know a murder was about to happen. And that may change things. But I'm not saying that that's going to happen in this case. I'm just playing devil's advocates. Right. And meanwhile, these people sit in prison if they are innocent and losing valuable years of their life while they're sitting in prison waiting for somebody to decide whether or not they're guilty or not. In the meantime, court of public opinion has already decided they're guilty. So even if they get out, even if they get exonerated, there's a good portion of the population who will believe that they're still guilty and won't believe the verdict anyways. What percentage of info evidence in the Idaho 4 case does the public still not know? That's impossible to know, in my opinion, Jeff, because everything's been under gag order. Now, what we know from what we can see is Judge Hippler has been releasing more and more documents from the gag order. And we also, even on documents that are under restriction, we see the titles of those documents. So we can suss out, if you will, if that's a word, we can suss out the gist of what the case is by looking at the documents that are being, the titles of the documents, and which ones are being redacted, which ones are being completely hidden under the gag order, and which ones are being released. We can get a pretty good idea. So do I think that there's all kinds of details? Yes. Specifically the wounds. I believe, personally, we know exactly, we being the prosecution and the defense, knows exactly what order the individuals were killed in. But that's never been officially confirmed. But I can almost guarantee you, based on the concept of cross-contamination, they know what room was killed, which room had the killings happen first and which room had the killings second. And they know a lot of details that we don't know yet. And they know those answers. We don't. So there's a crap ton of information, I believe, that yes, the public doesn't know yet and will probably never know. Because when they start getting into the details of the victims' injuries and the pictures that are going to be shown to the jury, we're not going to see those pictures. We're going to have to trust the jurors to tell us when the trial's over what they thought when they saw the pictures, because they'll be allowed to talk about it once the trial's over. But we're never going to know because we're not going to see those photos. But yeah, I would say there's a lot of information that the public still doesn't know. Scott Peterson is a great example of, I think, we should have done some interactive videos with the time clock when the house was still standing. Yes. Scott Peterson's a perfect example. Yeah, Scott Peterson's case and the Innocence Project is working on getting Scott Peterson out. If it turns out Scott Peterson has a reasonable doubt and there was another suspect and they didn't fully do that and he gets out, his life's ruined anyways. He'll get a oops, sorry, but he spent the majority of his life behind bars. And there will be people in this country who will believe nothing more than what they've been told. And I'm not saying it didn't happen that way, because he was a cheater, right? It's admitted he cheated on his wife. He was having an affair with another woman. Some people at this point don't care anymore what really happened. He's a cheater. So yeah, he probably did it. And it won't make a difference. So if he even gets out, his life is ruined. He will forever be demonized as the killer. There will be people who will never believe it, even if he does get off on as many people will say, a technicality, because some DNA evidence suggests that maybe he couldn't have been the guy. And some people will never trust that. Just like in this case, some people will never trust the DNA evidence. All right. Folks, I think I'm going to wrap up here. I usually go about an hour. It looks like we're going about 4 minutes over. I want to give an opportunity to say thank you for everyone. I want to remind you that I'm going live again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All of my videos are recorded and available for rewatch on YouTube. They're also available on TikTok, I believe, for rewatch, as long as I haven't got a community guidelines violation, which I didn't see anything come up, so we should be good there. Friday night, I'm going live. I anticipate that live is probably going to be, I don't know. At first, I was going to say it's going to be another Koberger thing, but I've been talking about Koberger all week, so it may be another question and answer thing. Depends on what happens with court documents. If anything happens today or tomorrow, that could shape the event. And then afterwards, at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, is the After Dark Adult Show. If you're 18 and older and you want to participate, reach out to me somehow in private message or whatever. I'll get you the Discord channel so that you can join my Discord channel, and then you'll be able to join that audio portion and use a microphone, interact, talk, have a few drinks, be a little rude, drop a few F-bombs, whatever the case may be. Things that we can't do on TikTok, things we can't do on the monetized side of YouTube too often, because you can't drop too many F-bombs on the monetized side without getting in trouble, which is why I have a backstage account. So with that, everyone, I'm looking for last minute questions. I don't see any major last minute questions. So I think that's it, people. Thank you so much. Again, the Galaxy gift that I got today, I think that's a huge deal. I don't remember, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm embarrassed by not knowing, because if it's small and I'm making a big deal out of it, then that's embarrassing. But if it's big and I didn't make a big deal out of it, that's embarrassing. So again, that sounded amazing. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you all so much for the hundreds of people who just recently started sharing and watching this live and watching following my content on YouTube. I can't wait to see where this goes next. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm planning on being there, by the way, day one. I'm planning on being at Koberger's trial, day one of the trial. It's not too far of a drive from where I'm at, so I plan on being there. I don't know if I'm going to watch the rest of it from streaming online if they stream it, or whether I'm going to stay at the trial for certain days. But either case, I want to be there day one. And I have high hopes to be at Luigi Mangione's first day of trial in New York next year. And that's a long ways off, and I don't have a lot of money to do that, but if things change in the meantime, or if I get a way to get there, I'm going to go to New York for the opening day as well. So take it easy. I will be following these cases, and by the way, if they stream any of the parts of those trials, I'll be watching every hour, and I will be commenting daily on what changed about my opinion over the past couple of years. See you guys later. I'm out.